About 4 o'clock this afternoon, we were dispatched to a fire residential response. And a fire residential in this area, being a rural area, gets a bigger response than in a more urban setting, because we usually truck our own water in. So we bring water tenders. And so Granite Falls, this is Granite Falls Fire Districts area. They responded. Lake Stevens, Getchell, Arlington Rural, and Lake Roesiger all responded to the scene to this residential structure fire.
How does that break down in terms of numbers of firefighters and companies?
Numbers of firefighters, we're looking at about 20 firefighters on the scene. So 4 fire engines, 3 water tenders, 2 chiefs, and an investigator, along with the American Red Cross was notified.
You mentioned the investigator. Over the scanner, I happened to hear that there seemed to be some urgency in getting him here as quickly as possible because this might be a crime scene. Could you shed any light on that?
Yeah, the fire is under investigation at this time by the Snohomish County Fire Marshal's office, and they're going to get to the bottom of it. And at this time, we don't have a cause right now until they determine the cause.
It sounds like you're saying in a very matter-of-fact way that anything's possible, including arson. Hasn't been ruled out, hasn't been ruled in.
That is correct.
Can you tell us anything about the people who live here? Was there anybody home? Are they homeowners? Are they renters?
We haven't determined whether they're homeowners or renters at this time. I don't have that information. However, they were not home at the time of the fire. A neighbor called the fire in, and that's how we were notified.
Did people show up who live here?
Yes, they showed up about a half hour into this incident, and they were very upset, as you could imagine. They let us know that there was nobody in the house, and that the only pets that they had inside the house were fish.
Was there anything about the fire? Well, I heard there were explosions over the scanner. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, typically there will be explosions. That could be anything from acetylene tanks to a can of Raid type of thing, or spray paint. When those things get superheated, they tend to blow up and explode. It's usually very dramatic, but it's something that firefighters encounter on a pretty regular basis.
Could you tell us at the end there, you guys were holding off for a while until the fire marshal arrived, got in there with his camera, took his photographs, and did other business related to his investigation, and then it looked, I think he said 4 companies, or members of 4 companies, all went in at once. Someone up the ladder on the roof, someone inside, everybody was busy. What was going on in that case? Well,
normally what happens when we get fire that extends into the attic area of the building, in the attic, some people store stuff up in the attic. There's usually lots of insulation in the attic, and what holds all that up there is usually sheetrock. And what happens when sheetrock and insulation gets wet, and other belongings that may be stored in the attic gets all wet from fire suppression, firefighters putting water on the fire, all that stuff tends to drop down after it's been wet. It gets heavy and it makes a big mess, almost like a slurry. And so we still had a few hot spots there, and we want to remove all of that slurry, that mess, and all the contents that are burned in there, and get it outside to make sure that fire is 100% out, so that we don't have to come back here a little later on tonight or tomorrow for a reignition. So before we leave tonight, we'll make sure that's as cleaned as best we can. We'll go through with some instruments called thermal imaging cameras. We'll make sure we don't have any more hot spots. We'll even go as far as sending a pumper out here, a fire crew out here, probably 2 or 3 times tonight in the middle of the night, just to check on things, to make sure that fire's dead out.
When you guys got here, was the fire already at its highest point in terms of how engulfed the building was?
Yeah, when we got here, I was one of the first units to arrive on the scene. I took command of the scene. The local fire engine was here. They were stretching hose lines, and we had heavy fire involvement in the back of the house, and heavy smoke conditions coming from the roof area under pressure, smoke under pressure, that cottony smoke going up because it's hot and heat rises. And so I knew I had a lot of heat in the house, and I didn't want to put firefighters in the house until we could get things controlled into our favor. And how we do that is we put people on the roof of the building with chainsaws and rubbish hooks, and they quickly get on the building's roof, and they'll cut usually a 4x4 or 4x8 hole in the roof, and then they'll breach the sheetrock so it gets all those heat, gases, and byproducts of combustion out of the box inside the house up through that hole, that breach that we've made. And it gets it out of there, and it makes the visibility increase. It lifts that smoke layer up so our firefighters can safely get in there and see what they've got going on. If there's victims in the house, in this case there wasn't, they're easily able to find them, or a lot easier, and they can get right on the seat of the fire, knock the fire out, and all that smoke and steam goes right up through that vent hole that our crews on the roof created. It makes things a lot safer for the people inside.
Fantastic. The job's not done yet, but up until this point, Chief, how would you assess this team effort from these multiple jurisdictions attacking this fire, which was very much an involved structure fire?
Oh, it was a well-coordinated effort by lots of different jurisdictions around here. A lot of hard-working firefighters, and most of these guys still have the rest of their 24-hour shift to finish, and won't get to go home to their families until about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we'll see what the night brings.